Today we're talking about grace in a world of cancel culture, in a world of judgment. So if you're new here, welcome. We're glad to have you. This is the Light and Life podcast. And if you've been with us before, welcome back. Today we are talking about loving people that you disagree with. I'm your host, Liza, and here with Pastor Tim.
Hey, Liza.
Hey, how's your day going?
Pretty good.
Good? Have you canceled anyone today?
I think I'm up to 6 today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Each day I try to do a good baker's dozen. Yep.
What was the worst? What was the worst thing that someone's done today for them to be canceled? This is inside the church. Dun, dun, dun. Like, I feel like we need some special sound effect for.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Cancel culture.
Canceled. No, I try not to do that. I aren't all ministers automatically canceled?
Yeah, I guess so.
I think so.
In a way.
Like if I were, So there's there seems to be this attitude that if you're platformed, if you have a voice, you need to use your voice in the way that I think is responsible. And if you don't use your voice in the way that I think is responsible, even though I'm maybe not platformed, but you are platformed, then that's how people, like in the big scheme of things with celebrities and things like that, and that's what you see happen. Like there's this group that believes that you should say a certain thing, and if you don't say a certain thing in a certain way, right, you're not playing the game.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to clip you. I'm just going to do everything that I can to say you're out.
Yeah, and my friends and I have a running joke that none of us could ever run for office,
Yeah.
ever, because people would go back and pull up something I said in middle school or high school, and career ruined.
I don't have any idea how in 10 or 20 years' time we will be able to have Supreme Court justices.
Everyone's got something. Everyone.
I think we can just put it on the calendar that we will no longer have a Supreme Court.
Okay.
Because you're going to have people up there for nomination, and there's going to be vines and, reels, and it's just going to be
Vine is a thing of the past.
I know, but it's still there. It's still out there. Yep.
It's difficult to find.
And,
you gotta go to YouTube to find old vines.
Those senators are going to go digging, and then it's not possible to put a black robe on someone and put them on the Supreme Court any longer.
Yeah, no one's perfect.
Those
turns
dwindle
out
down to the last one, and then we'll just not have it anymore.
Have you ever been in a situation where someone said something that you disagree with, and then you struggle to respond with grace?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Yep. Yeah. And there's a big difference between this this sort of celebrity cancellation thing that we're talking about, and just what does it mean to be in relationship with people that you disagree with?
Yeah.
And why would God have someone in my life who doesn't see things from my perspective, or who is coming at something with a different set of priorities than I have, or is going to be hypercritical of me, or is going to be, why does God put people? Why does God allow conflict even within Christian community? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's. Probably the question that you asked is probably a regular part of being the pastor of a church. You know?
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So sitting in places where, as you said, someone says something that I disagree with. Is that what you asked? Mm-hmm. And how do I have grace for that? I think one of the key things that I've learned along the way, and I think this is a huge mindset shift, is that so there's unhealthy conflict that's sinful, like divisiveness, fractiousness, intentionally creating different parties. And the Bible talks about that throughout. Like Christian leadership has to be really careful about not allowing that stuff to occur within the Christian body, because people will sort of take up out of their kind of position, and they'll create a division in the body. They'll tear the body apart if you let them. And
but you think about all the denominations,
right,
in the church,
right?
Even within the Presbyterian church, there's different kinds of Presbyterians.
We got lots.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes they come together, sometimes they're marriages, but mostly they're divorces. And so that's a tendency to fracture apart. I want to be with like-minded people, and there's a sinful divisiveness that can happen. But there's also just healthy conflict where different perspectives need to come together so that you can see something from different sides, you can understand decisions better, you can make better decisions as a church body. And this is really like the key thing, the big mind shift, is that conflict is raw material for discipleship. The conflict is an opportunity to grow. And when you see it that way, like if you think of conflict as actually a place where disagreement, healthy conflict or disagreement, is actually raw material that's needed for growth, then you start to look at it differently. You don't want to be protected from it. You want to learn how to mine it, how to extract out of it what God wants extracted out of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a huge mind shift, because mostly I grew up wanting to avoid conflict as much as I possibly could. So I wanted to make sure that whatever I did was not going to produce any conflict, was not going to disappoint anybody around me, and so that everything could be fluffy and soft and warm, But life isn't fluffy and soft and warm.
It's sure not. I go back and forth. I'm learning about attachment styles right now.
Okay.
And so would you say you're an avoidant attachment style?
I am conflict avoidant. Yeah.
I am anxious, just an anxious attachment style in that when conflict arises, I press in more in wanting to resolve that conflict,
right,
which pushes people who avoid conflict away even further.
Yes.
It's almost like when you like a person or when you know a person doesn't like you, and so you do everything in your power to like change their mind about you. I'm acting like this is a common experience for you. It's probably not. It is for me. When I can tell someone doesn't like me and I make it my personal mission to force them to like me.
Right.
And by doing that, I make them hate me more
right.
because I'm like
pushing.
I'm like, please love me, you know. And I ultimately just become a more annoying version of myself, which was the problem to begin with in the first place.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
I tell you, in years and years of sitting with couples in their marriage, I see this play out again and again and again, that when there's some kind of disagreement, one party wants to push in like that, and the other party wants to withdraw because they don't want to harm the other person. So they really just want to stop thinking about that thing and see if it goes away. And then the other person just gets more and more amped up, like, no, talk about this. Tell me, talk. What are you saying right now? What are you thinking right now? And then that makes them more, withdraw even more, like more guarded, like, I don't want to talk about this or we're going to hurt each other. And I don't want to hurt you, so I don't want to talk about this. And it just creates this like death spiral loop that couples get into of how they need to learn how to say, okay, we're going to learn how to, when I got back from, at the end of my military deployment, where I was active duty with the Army for about 14 months, supporting soldiers. I didn't go to Iraq. I always have to say that. But I was supporting soldiers who were in Iraq. And what we did was we had marriage training for all of them when they got home. And we called the marriage training Fighting for Your Marriage. Fighting for Your Marriage. And what we were teaching them was how to fight. Like, this is how you have a fight, like how you have a conflict, so that your marriage is safe within that conflict. Like, you're not going to just go at each other and like hurt each other, but that you can have a way to get each other's ideas on the table and get each other's positions out and have the fight. Like, you need to have a fight about this. There's some things that you don't agree. So the only way to get there is to not go combative, but you got to allow the friction. Yeah. So how do you set up spaces where we're going to talk about this, at this time for this amount of time, and then we're not going to talk about it, and we're going to go do the things that we enjoy, but then we're going to talk about it again at this time, with these parameters. And it was a really great training. I think, wish we had it in every relationship, I guess.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I guess that comes with my next question is, how do we be relational and kind but still hold on to truth? Or still, because in Christian community, we say that we want to call each other higher. But for people who are conflict averse, right? It's almost so easy to just allow grudges or
resentment to build or chip to form on the shoulder,
because it's not addressing things head on. And so I can't decide in certain situations where it's more loving to leave a situation alone or if it's loving to comment about it, because I have my own things I certainly need to work through. But in my relationships, I notice certain things that grow and fester, and how do I respond with love?
Yeah, that's great.
While still holding on to the truth is the question.
There's the Ephesians verse, speaking the truth in love, we grow into the full measure of Christ. We grow into mature Christian disciples, speaking the truth in love. And then what does that mean? In Christian communities, like, get ready, I'm about to speak the truth in love to you, buddy. And we just speak the truth without love. But what does that really mean, speaking the truth in love? So how do we do that? A big part of cancel culture is the safety culture that we're in, of like the safe space culture. Like if you're saying something that I disagree with that feels uncomfortable, now you're hurting me. And so now you're doing injury to me by saying something that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
And so I want to be in a safe space where no one is saying anything that I disagree with. And so I want to create this insulated zone where I'm not going to hear something that I feel uncomfortable with because that's injurious to me. And the mind shift is, actually, I'm not going to grow until someone tells me something that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to experience anything different. I'm not going to be able to increase my capacity to influence or to go about life. I'm not going to be more resilient until I have the experience of someone telling me something that makes me uncomfortable, and I find out that I can actually live through that.
Yeah.
And it's fine for you to have that opinion, and I'm gonna be settled on the idea that saying this sort of flippantly, but that Jesus loves me, and like I'm a child of God, and I do my best, and we might disagree about this, and that's okay.
This question I can't take credit for. Someone on our podcast team wrote it, and I think it's really beautifully worded. But what does Jesus teach us about calling people in instead of calling them out? I just think that's beautifully worded, because that question, the way it's worded in and of itself, makes me think. But I want to know your thoughts on that.
That is beautifully worded. I would have to think about it. That feels like a book title, maybe a sermon series. Yep.
Yeah.
Jesus calls us in, doesn't call us out. Now, sometimes, what is calling you out? Jesus, he knows what's in our hearts. He knows what's in the heart of man. He knows what's within us, and he knows what needs to be sort of named. And there are moments where he does, put a finger on it. I'm thinking of the Samaritan woman at the well, and one of the most penetrating dialogues that Jesus has with anybody. John chapter 4. It's the longest dialogue in any of the four Gospels. It's an unnamed, not unknown, but unnamed Samaritan woman at Joseph's well. And at one point he says, go and get your husband, and I'll give you the living water. And he reveals that he knows that she's been married a number of times, and that the man that she's living with now they're not married. And she's got to feel totally exposed. She's got to feel called out.
Yeah.
So in that sense, Jesus is willing to expose what needs to be exposed. But he's doing that to call her in. So that's drawing her closer, that he's willing to say the hard things to her. So speaking the truth in love, we grow up into all the matureness and fullness of Christ. What if in Christian community we're like that? Like the last thing I would want to do is expose you to shame or harm or injure you. But also the last thing I would want to do is hold a grudge or not speak the truth to you, because truth-telling is also love.
Yeah.
Speaking the truth in love. How do I do that? People are not very good at it. It takes some accumulated wisdom to know how to really step into a conversation where I'm going to tell you something that might hurt, but it's, from my perspective, it's true, and I want it to bring us closer.
Yeah. I think a lot of conversations that I've had like that in my past, I've been the guarded one. I've been the one that's been approached and being told that I'm, hurting people in the way that I behave or the way that I am self-destructive, or the list goes on and on. I'm a very broken person. We all know this. We all are. But
yeah.
I think about how guarded I am at the initial conversation and how my first response is defense. Like, defend, deflect, throw it back at them.
Yeah.
I've been self-protective. I'm
a little verbal jujitsu.
My wit can outrun anyone.
There you go.
Sometimes, I'm like, if you want to, you and I in a fist fight, I'll lose. In a wit fight, if it's words, my words can harm people. They really can. And so I
get sharp real quick.
Yeah, so I have to check myself. Yeah. But I have had multiple conversations where my first instinct is to be guarded and defensive, and then I always look back at those conversations in retrospect, and I'm so blessed and thankful for them, because it did challenge me and it did force me to grow and look inwardly in a way that I just wasn't even aware of. Like, it's caused a self-awareness that I needed. Then it leads to shame. There's a full cycle there, but I've never not been grateful for an experience where someone has called me out to call me in. So, yeah, I think it feels risky. It feels uncomfortable. But letting yourself be loved in a way that is being called higher by other people is a beautiful thing. Why do you think grace feels risky? Because in those situations where I'm called out or I'm the one calling someone out, you can only hope for grace both ways.
Yes. You might not get it.
Why does it feel so risky to give grace and to receive it?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I think when we walk into a room, people can tell if we're walking in like that boxer with the gloves up over the face. Yeah. And I just really want to be defended here, and I don't want anybody to land a blow, and so I'm just going to have my hands up like this, and that causes some people to really poke, and some people just walk away. And so how do you walk into a room with an openness of grace that I want to be open to you, open to your ideas? They might be different from mine. I want to be open to, as one pastor says, what's it like to be on the other side of me? I want to be curious. What are you bringing that you're interested in? What is it like to be on the other side of me? Yeah. I'm curious. I want to know that, because that might help me to grow, or it might just be interesting, or it might help you. What do you need? What does that other person need? What are they seeking that you might be able to bring, or that God might want to bring into their lives through your relationship? And I think that posture helps us, being curious about one another, wanting to love one another, serve one another, holding the other person in higher regard than yourself, holding their needs above your own. When you're in a healthy place, to walk into that space with hands open, that's when there's a lot of room for grace.
Yeah.
That's when there's a lot of room for grace, I'd say.
Ah, that's beautiful. Is there one area, and this is really tapping in, so you can deflect the question if you need to. But where do you personally feel challenged to practice grace over judgment right now? I'm sure in a pastor's position, that's just being a human.
Yeah.
That's got to be hard.
Yeah, you want every conversation to be just soaked in grace. There are conversations where hard things need to be said, too.
Yeah.
And so how do you, even in those conversations, how are those conversations soaked in grace? Mm-hmm. That's a big challenge. It's a big challenge.
How do you overcome that challenge?
Well, does it sound childish? I pray.
It doesn't sound childish.
And try to reflect. Try to do a lot of reflection and learning. Spend time reflecting, and sometimes with others, with a coach or I have both a coach and a counselor in my life.
Yeah. And
because I'm in the position of where I'm regularly walking into rooms as a leader, where I'm making decisions, having conversations, and not always able to measure the impact of those conversations, on my own.
Yeah.
There's so many of them that happen. So to have space to reflect on who I was in various environments, various rooms, and to have a coach or counselor to help you with that exercise is one way to really sort of grow, because wisdom is not gained by age. Wisdom is gained by reflecting on life experience. And so if you just go through life experience, you'll be the same person going through that experience again. But wisdom is gained by reflecting on the experiences that you have.
Wow. That's beautifully worded. I think that's a great place to end, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, to close, guys, let's together think of one person or situation that makes you want to shut down or cancel. And I want you to think about this week praying about how you can lean in with grace instead, and what it would look like to invite love and truth into conversations or situations. Small things can be holy ground. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.